Good evening. It's 7 o'clock. Can we call the roll? I'd like to call the meeting to order and call the roll.
Maria Ryan, Stacy Gloss, Morgan Johnston,
Here.
Elizabeth Mashusky,
Here.
Todd Rusk, Andrew Stumpf,
Here.
Stephen Wald.
Here. Okay. We have a quorum. Let's first let me start by our first item on the agenda is entertaining changes to the agenda. Do we have any? Any changes to the agenda? Okay. Then our first real item is approving the minutes from the previous meeting. I will take a motion to consider the minutes. I need a motion.
I'm going to say, I am sorry, I did not have a chance to read it.
Okay. Do you have a copy in front of you? You're looking at the copies. What do you think, Beth? Can you move to approve these minutes?
I can't because I only heard half the meeting over the phone.
Oh, dear. We are having a Robert's Rules of Order crisis already on the first agenda item. Andy?
I could first, I could bring it, but no one else could second it, so.
Well, I can wait till next month.
Yeah. Okay. So as chair, do I have I can't second? No.
I
Okay.
don't know the answer to that.
Okay. We'll approve these minutes next time. I thought they were very well written. If it were up to me, we'd move these babies. Okay. Let's move ahead. And is there anyone in the audience who would like to offer public input tonight? Please step forward. Hi. Yeah, state
Sit down.
Yeah,
Mhm.
sure. Have a seat, state your name for the record, and you can take 5 minutes.
So my name is Kirsten Keller, and I'm an Urbana resident.
My name is Nicole Moore, and I'm an Urbana resident.
And we just wanted to come here tonight to ask some questions about composting, and specifically food waste composting in the city of Urbana. And we know that Urbana cares about residential composting, as in composting in your backyard, because last spring, I think it was, the city hosted a compost bin sale. But we're specifically wondering about residents who don't have a backyard or who don't want to have a compost in their backyard, and they'd rather have curbside pickup where the trash collectors maybe pick it up, or there's some place where they can drop off the compost. So we're essentially wondering what options could be out there for those residents. So I essentially have 3 questions for the commission. The first is, has the city in the past explored composting programs that include food waste? And that may be a question more for you, Scott. And 2, are there any plans in the works for a composting program, food waste specifically, or is this something that any of the commissioners are planning to address in the future? And then 3, what can we as residents do to help these efforts, if there are efforts, or what maybe can we do to initiate efforts?
Fantastic. Thank you for coming tonight to ask these questions. I'm going to turn to Scott to review a brief history. Maybe you've been in touch with Scott already. I don't know, but he can outline efforts. The commission has had numerous discussions about this in the past, but I'd appreciate the refresher as well.
Sure. So staff, myself, and the recycling coordinator, Courtney Kwong, have been observing other cities that are adding curbside food scrap collection to their recycling services. And we've been evaluating what the needs are to have a program like that. One of the needs would be a facility that is, shall we say, economically close. So if we have to, there is a commercial food scrap compost facility in Chicago area. If we had to ship food scrap from here to there, it would probably be more costly than folks would be willing to pay. So we need a facility closer by. Some have suggested that the Landscape Recycling Center could serve that purpose. The Landscape Recycling Center permit allows for a small portion of their total tip, their total intake, to be food scrap. So there's some limitations there, but I don't know exactly whether those limitations are serious based on how much food scrap we would expect. Additionally, another need would be funds for the program, so to pay for collection. One possible way of structuring that would be increasing the U-Cycle tax and making U-Cycle both a commodities recycling program and a food scrap recycling program. But it would probably, I don't remember off the top of my head our discussions, but it could be maybe as much as double, maybe 1.5 times. I don't remember the details. But it would involve some additional cost. And then there would be a decision in terms of how to structure it. We'd have to structure it either as the same way that U-Cycle is structured, where each household is assessed a fee and each household is provided service, or we would have to structure it as a subscription service where we set a price, individual households choose to subscribe, and we provide the service. Obviously, if you charge a fee to every single household and provide it to every single household, the per household fees are much lower than if you have a subscription service where some subset of all the households chooses to subscribe. That's kind of the general framework. If there's been conversations before I was at the city, I'd be interested in hearing about those as well.
When I was referring to past discussions, was thinking of former Commissioner Bart Bartles, who'd pursued it on campus to a degree and had, I felt like, numerous conversations with the Landscape Recycling Center and others about its feasibility.
Yeah, I guess I could add, we had done a pilot with Bart from a conference, I think it was at campus, and it was the food that was provided it wasn't a full meal, so there wasn't a lot of kitchen trimmings, and so there was some crumbs from cookies and paper cups. And so it wasn't a great test. It was taken to the Landscape Recycling Center, but it was probably so small that little bit's been pushed around and lost. We have a much better test from the Sweet Corn Festival, where we collected corn cobs, and those were delivered to the Landscape Recycling Center and covered up. And probably in the spring, that pile will be cracked open, and we'll see how that looks. That poses some barriers. The Landscape Recycling Center is a retail facility as well as a processing facility. So when folks go there to buy mulch and compost products, the facility needs to look good and smell good. So we would have to develop protocols whereby food scrap was processed in such a way that it didn't cause an odor problem. There are also residential areas near the Landscape Recycling Center, and we would need to be sure that we're not causing an odor nuisance to them as well. So, different decisions on how to structure it, and then some additional barriers. There may be some equipment barriers too in terms of processing the material, and there may be staffing barriers in terms of when that material comes in, it may have to be handled right away. It can't just be set aside. If someone brings leaves or sticks, common stuff at the Landscape Recycling Center, it doesn't necessarily have to be processed right away. It can be set aside. But food scrap is going to need to be processed and covered immediately, probably the same day. So it's a little bit different protocol than what they normally do there. Not to say that there couldn't be other commercial facilities that would think that this is a profitable business to take food scrap, or the university, perhaps on their land. But some local facilities probably necessary to keep the cost down.
So since you said the Landscape Recycling Center only collects a certain percentage of food waste, would they have to increase that percent? Do they have the capability to take in more, or
right now their permit allows them today to accept a certain proportion of their total as food scrap. We'd have to look at what the volume that other cities collect and see if that volume limit on their current permit would be enough. If it's not enough, they would have to apply for a different type of permit. it'd be a lot more involved, a lot more stringent. But I don't know. It may be that their existing permit is just fine for the amount that we would ever collect, but I don't know the answer to that. But it's potential that they could upgrade the permit.
Okay, so I guess for right now, those talks are existing within city staff. There's no like immediate action that you are aware of coming.
Yeah,
I
we've
guess.
we've looked into what other cities have been doing, and we're monitoring what other cities are doing, and and we've looked at kind of what the needs would be as I've described, but there are no immediate plans to take any immediate actions, accepting the sort of test pilot of the corn cob recycling, and learning, how long it takes to compost and how long it takes to suppress odor and that sort of thing.
Scott, did you guys look at what ISU is doing in their composting?
It's a little bit different. They compost a lot of manure, so that's not something that.
But then they've actually set it up to be able to also take food scrap from local businesses, which is something that the university could potentially pursue as well. Although we did look at doing windrow food waste composting on campus, and we determined that it would be more appropriate for us to pursue either an anaerobic digester or potentially hydrothermal liquefaction. And those are still under discussion. I was actually just at a poster session talking about the benefits, the pros and cons of the 3 different ones tonight. So there's kind of ongoing conversations about what campus would do, but it's been focused internal to campus because there's a totally different permitting process if we take stuff from off campus onto campus. And then IUPUI and the University of Indiana won a grant in October to do community food waste composting collection and efforts. I'm not sure what their timing was to get started on that, but it's something for us to follow up on and know what they ended up doing that's new. And then I actually have a question for, I guess maybe for Scott. If we have small areas where there's like local urban gardens with vegetables and such like that. If they wanted to do small scale collection of composting at those kinds of sites, is there a protocol because on campus, not on campus, but within the university district, there's a lot of coffee shops, and we had students who worked with the coffee shops to collect their used coffee grounds, and then they go to some of the, I forget what they're called, the local gardens, and compost them there, and they just developed a one-to-one connection. So are there rules that people would need to work through to do that kind of thing?
The Urbana Code does not explicitly talk about food scrap composting or composting.
It's just the nuisance
we have
rules.
nuisance codes that say don't cause an odor to your neighbor, don't cause visual blight to your neighbor. So within those constraints, lots of people will have backyard composting. At some point, when you're bringing materials off-site and doing waste treatment, you at some scale you become
So there's a
a waste
volume limit.
facility. It needs a permit. So I don't know what that threshold is, but that's something to consider. I should mention one other barrier for consideration of using the LRC, the Landscape Recycling Center. Their facility is funded. They have 2 revenue streams. One is the tipping fee when materials are brought in, and the other is the sales of product. So if more material comes in, but they don't sell more material, they have a financial problem and a mass balance problem. They can't just keep accumulating material forever. So that's another consideration, is if we were to bring more material to the LRC, we would also need to ensure that our community buys more compost from the facility.
Okay. You asked, have we explored it before, and what's the history? You asked what immediate plans might be are. I think we've spoken to some of those. You also asked what can residents do? So, I mean, for what it's worth, I'll offer up this. We live in a small community, and it's really easy to have an impact on it as a citizen. So this is a forum that meets monthly, with the city's sustainability manager. If you continue to inform yourself about the various moving parts, the barriers, the economics, if you're able to help contribute to finding solutions, if you continue to show up and offer comment and keep the issue in front of us, there's a chance of moving it forward. Understanding that some of the barriers could be stubborn or hard to get around, but with a problem-solving orientation and demonstrating public support, and we have a government that is amenable to citizen participation. I'd encourage you to stay involved. And I mean, thank you for coming tonight and raising it. It's an issue we've talked about before, and we kind of have it in monitoring mode. But it's great to know there's interest about this. There's a whole menu of sustainability topics and items that we track and monitor in our climate action plan and our water management plan, but waste and recycling is a component of particularly the climate action plan. And so this is something it's good to have and know about the interest. I don't know if anyone else wants to speak to that. Any other comments?
No, just thanks for answering our questions, and it's encouraging to hear that there are plans and talks in the works, at least, in the city.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks very much for your interest. Any other public comment? Okay. Thanks again. Let's move to communications. We have our staff report.
So first, some review on the climate action plan. Under Goal 2, Action 2, reduce single occupancy vehicle mode share. There was a request to update the commission on the MCORE project. The MCORE project would improve multimodal transportation on Green Street in Urbana and Champaign, as well as I think it's White Street in Champaign. The recent bids for the Urbana Green Street portion came in above the engineer's cost estimates. Partner agencies on MCORE decided to reject all bids, and they're rebidding that, and the bids should be open by now, and construction is expected in spring of 2017. MTD as well as Urbana have websites where they're posting news on this. And I think MTD's maybe was the most updated the last time I looked, so I included their link here. There's also a request to update the commission on the Urbana Bicycle Master Plan. That was approved by Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Commission on November 15th, and it's scheduled for Plan Commission on December 8th. After Plan Commission, it'll go to City Council, and staff are aiming to get the updated plan approved at Council in December. There's also a request to update the Commission regarding plans for Curtis Road. There is a Regional Planning Commission study going on regarding the Curtis Road corridor. I've attached what seems to be the latest document. It's a slide deck from the public meeting that the Regional Planning Commission conducted. It's and the website at the Regional Planning Commission says that planning on that corridor will continue throughout 2017. Under Goal 3, Action 2, purchase Green Power Partnership qualified renewable energy credits and/or the installation of on-site renewable energy for city facilities. Staff presented a solar power purchase agreement to Committee of the Whole and City Council just last night. City Council chose to send the issue back to Committee of the Whole. They wanted to evaluate both the power purchase agreement that staff presented as well as a second power purchase agreement, and I'll describe the difference between the two. Staff had originally brought a power purchase agreement whereby we gave up or relinquished just enough of the renewable energy credits, the first 5 years of a 25-year agreement worth, to keep the 25-year net present value of the power purchase agreement as a savings, a net savings for the city. So it was a net savings, net present value of $4,000. And with that small savings, we would be able to keep 20 out of 25 years of the renewable energy credits. We would be able to make appropriate claims of using green power, renewable energy, solar power at our facility. And we would be able to claim those greenhouse gas reductions in our inventories. Council was interested in also looking at a second power purchase agreement whereby the city would relinquish all 25 years of the renewable energy credits. In that power purchase agreement, the city cannot make any green power, renewable energy, solar power claims, but we would have a savings, a net present value savings of $21,000. So I will be back at Committee of the Whole Monday to present both of those agreements, and City Council will choose one, presumably. Any questions on that?
Yeah, so why is it a second one if they're going to choose one? It's actually not it's not a second one, it's an alternative one, right? One was where we actually have the emission reductions and use green power, and the other is we don't. We just provide a facility for somebody else to have and use green power. Right? Is that correct?
That's correct.
Thank you.
The staff was asked to bring both options back to council. At the council meeting yesterday, I had a fee schedule in a 25-year accounting for the no-rec power purchase agreement, but we didn't have that power purchase agreement written and signed, so I needed to verify that fee schedule was still viable with the installer, which it is as I talked to him today.
And is there not an option of doing both, where we get the fourth? We don't have an option of doing both because you're already maximizing the available space on the facility.
There's no more off-taker. So it's a 15 kW sized array that will provide almost all of the power for the arbor shop.
Okay. Thank you for that information.
You're welcome. Goal 3, Action 4, proposed strategies to improve the local on-site renewable energy market. We are very, very, very close to getting a bronze level SolSmart designation from the Department of Energy. We're already working with them on evaluating solar plus storage at a fire station, and achieving that bronze level designation may unlock some additional technical assistance that they will provide throughout their programming for any solar related activities that the city would be interested in. Goal 3, Action 5, proposed strategies to increase renewable energy purchasing in the commercial sector. On November 21st, the City Council approved a resolution authorizing the mayor to send the resolution of support for SB 116, which was the PACE bill in the Illinois General Assembly. That was approved by City Council, and the mayor's office sent that letter of support. The bill was defeated in, I think I wrote the House here in the packet, but I think it was actually the Senate on November 30th. So that bill would need to be reintroduced to both houses at this point to have another hearing. There is another short session of the General Assembly in January. I have no information as to whether someone will reintroduce this bill.
Scott, did you have any sense or understanding of the hurdles that the bill had faced in either the House or the Senate, or any idea around, why it was defeated or why it failed. And then I also, sorry about the voice tonight.
You're fine. I was told that the PACE bill, which is utilizing the special service area language that already exists in Illinois statutes, was opposed because some members generally are wary of special service areas. The green special service area that would be created by the PACE bill, SB 116, is a little bit different, I think, from other special service areas. I presume that other special service areas can be implemented by a board or a council, and in that sense, it's somewhat analogous to a tax. Although my reading is that it probably has to provide as much benefit, to the property as it's taxing. However, the green special service areas cannot be imposed upon any particular property. They are completely voluntary assessments. They are initiated by the property owner. They affect only the property owner, because the whole purpose is to facilitate property owner initiated energy efficiency improvements and renewable energy improvements. So I don't know if maybe that wasn't clear to some members, or maybe they had other reasons that they voted against it. Moving on to Sustainable Water Management Plan. Action 2, Goal 1, Action 3, Aspect 2, Goal 1, Action 3, collaborate with Mahomet Aquifer stakeholders in coordinated messaging and policies. I think we talked about this before. The Champaign County Regional Planning Commission has published a regional water supply framework. Urbana staff, as well as other municipalities and stakeholders, participated in that process. And so that lays out kind of a menu of best practices for managing our potable water supply, both in terms of quantity and quality, namely the Mahomet Aquifer. The report is linked in the packet, and this action has been marked as complete in Sustainable Water Management Plan tracking. We will continue to work with the Regional Planning Commission as they start to choose which of these items on this menu they want to start working on first. A note on public engagement. Staff spoke at the Urban Planning 211 Local Planning, Government, and Law class at the University of Illinois about sustainability work. Additionally, a note about U-Cycle. 6 months ago, U-Cycle began accepting mercury thermostats for recycling. We did not advertise this, as we did not know what kind of volume of thermostats we might receive. The per unit cost, which I don't have with me, but the per unit cost of recycling thermostats is somewhat high. So we wanted to see if we were going to get a flood of these thermostats for recycling. I say that the per unit cost is high. Our expected total volume that we would recycle was quite low. It's not a lot of money, but the per unit is high. We didn't get a lot of requests for thermostat recycling or thermometer recycling, so now we're starting to do some minimal advertising to start getting connected with folks in Urbana that are storing these and want to get rid of them. So we'll see if we start getting some small stream of thermometers.
Can you clarify when you say either thermostat or thermometer,
Yeah,
if
sorry.
you mean the like thermometers that we have in our medicine cabinets, or if you mean thermostats that?
Yeah, sorry.
Okay, thank you.
We already accept thermostats. We partner with the Thermostat Recycling Corporation. This is new. This is thermometers, as in taking your temperature when you're sick.
Is this something that someone can just put in their recycling bin at
No.
Ucycle? What would be the proper handling of thermometers if someone wanted to recycle it through Ucycle?
Great question. No, they cannot go in Ucycle containers. Folks can bring them to Urbana Public Works for proper recycling at no cost.
And if you can say what would it cost on like a per thermometer basis for the city to take and recycle these, assuming that they're getting sent to some sort of recycling facility that handles mercury off-site out of Urbana somewhere.
I don't have that with me. I can email it to you, though. Anything else on that? Also, with Ucycle, they conducted or partnered with some other folks in the community, Park District as usual, the Idea Store, and the Gadget Garage at U of I on an America Recycles Day event. They saw their highest participation ever at 90 persons. So that was a really successful event and sounds like a lot of fun troubleshooting electronic devices and repurposing waste electronics into other artifacts. Next item on here I have is the 2017 SAC schedule, and I have that as an agenda item to be voted on later on. The next SAC meeting would be January 3rd at 7 p.m.
Okay, Scott, that concludes your staff report.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Any questions or discussions on items covered just now?
I was just going to say that the January 3rd one's supposed to be in the upstairs, right? Here, the executive.
Yeah, I
Does it say?
highlighted all of the abnormal dates or locations
For
on that
those
schedule.
of you listening at home.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Also, on January 3rd, yourselves and certainly I will be out of town for holidays for some period of time. So I would be coming back to town the day before. So, any staff report or agenda items would be just from the next 2.5 weeks.
Mhm.
So if there's some topics you want to discuss or have on the agenda, we can certainly have that meeting. If we do, the staff report will be light. And it's also your decision if you would like to cancel that meeting, and you don't necessarily have to decide that tonight.
Okay. Let's hold that, but be in email communication with the commission about that, and partly saying that because 3 of us aren't here.
Sure.
Okay. Okay. Let's move to continuing business. Give Scott a chance to catch his breath.
Yeah. It's the second Tuesday. Mm-hmm. Continuing business. Compact of Mayors. I was hoping to be able to report that we were completed with all the items due, and they were approved, and we are officially in compliance. I can't quite say that. We have submitted all of the required information that is due at this point in time with the Compact of Mayors. They're reviewing our submission now. One of the items that they may find outstanding, because I know I didn't fill it in, was a note about submitting the, let's see the actual language here. Annual rate of urbanization. I don't know that that's a census collected statistic, They didn't specify whether, what urbanization means to them, whether a suburb is urbanization because it was converted from a farmland, or whether anything in the city boundaries are urbanization. So I've requested some guidance and assistance on that. It's possible that may not be one of the absolute necessary submissions to achieve compliance with the compact. So I'm waiting to hear back. I presume that by next meeting, we will be able to state that we're in full compliance. There will be some other activities to maintain compliance. So there is two off-year, two off-year reporting elements. One is activity data, and the other is improvements and challenges, so kind of a narrative. That works for us because we're doing inventories every other year. We're doing the community greenhouse gas inventory and this municipal greenhouse gas inventory on opposite years. So we would be doing these off-year reporting, I think just for the community greenhouse gas inventory in the off year. So we'll continue to do that throughout this Compact of Mayors period, but hopefully we'll soon be recognized as being in compliance. Any questions on that before we move to the next? The next item is Property Assessed Clean Energy and Climate Action Plan, Goal 3, Action 5, proposed strategies to increase renewable energy purchasing in the commercial sector. So I gave a summary already of what has transpired with SB 116, the PACE bill. The question I have for the Commission is, in terms of this particular goal, proposed strategies to increase renewable energy purchasing in the commercial sector, we've done two things. We've run the Solar Urbana-Champaign program, which was open to commercial facilities. And this commission has asked the mayor, and the mayor has fulfilled that request in sending a letter supporting PACE. So a question for the commission is this now appropriate to mark this particular action as in progress or complete?
How do you have it previously marked? Was it in queue? Do you remember?
It's probably
Maybe in progress already?
I think I misspoke. It's already in progress, probably. The question is, should it be marked continuous or complete?
Oh. Yeah. I mean, I recommend continuous because we want to continue to promote it.
Do you recall offhand, did we have commercial sector participation in the UC Solar Initiative?
Yes. I think there were three. There was at least one in Urbana, at least one in Savoy. There were 2 or 3 installations that were marked as agriculture. At least one of those was not only rural, so to speak, but also took advantage of the USDA incentives for solar. So in that sense, some of those agricultural installations may also be serving commercial type facilities, agricultural related commercial facilities. So we did have some participation in commercial. What our installers said was that businesses typically take twice as long to go from site assessment to signing a contract as residential. They just take more time. If we feel that conditions are right to run another round of the solar UC program, following up with the leads that did not convert to a contract, including the commercial, will be something we'll want to focus on. And also, we would want to investigate how we can get more commercial participation, because it's actually a better deal for commercial because they also get the 30% tax credit, but as residential do, but they get the asset depreciation as well. So it's actually a better deal for commercial, and accepting these other barriers that apparently take longer to make a decision, we should see more participation.
And Scott, I'm curious if the power purchase agreement that you are presenting to the committee of the whole, including like a rec sale and all that stuff, but was that special pricing for a municipal entity, or is that a purchase agreement that's available commercially as well?
We competitively bid a power purchase agreement.
Mm-hmm.
So we got 2 bids.
Mm-hmm.
We entered negotiations with the lower of the 2. There are not very many public sector power purchase agreements in Illinois. There are not a lot of power purchase agreements of any kind in Illinois.
Mm.
The margins are just very thin because our electricity rates are low.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Great.
Yeah, an important aspect of the power purchase agreement versus a purchase of a solar installation. One, we haven't been appropriated funds to purchase a solar array. Theoretically, you could pay for that out of a capital improvement budget for facilities. However, they are spending all of the money appropriated for facilities capital improvements on upgrades to roofs and HVACs that are in dire need of being repaired or replaced.
Mm-hmm.
And those also have an energy efficiency aspect to them.
Mm-hmm.
And I certainly wouldn't want to, rob Peter to pay Paul on that.
Mm-hmm.
Second, one benefit of the power purchase agreement for a public sector facility is the third-party owner can take advantage of tax incentives. So 30% federal tax credit
Mm-hmm.
and asset depreciation. The city would not be able to take advantage of those.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So we can share that value in a certain sense with the installer.
Okay.
Other questions on that?
Well, I asked the question, wondering if there were lessons learned for the commercial sector that would be directly transferable from that experience, or how much of it was unique to us being a municipality and having the constraints. And
It's not unique at all.
Okay.
It was a little bit different than what some commercial facilities in town might do, in that it was a ground mount. However, that was probably more cost than savings. There was some distance that the electric service would have to be trenched. It's probably cheaper just to put it on a roof. We didn't have that ability since we have a old facility that's probably going to be renovated in the next few years, and we have lots of ground space out there. The main takeaway that commercial facilities might have from this is very competitive pricing. Right now, we pay about 9 cents in terms of all the volumetric fees for our electricity at the city. We pay about 9 cents per kilowatt hour. The starting year 1 price with an annual escalator for this power purchase agreement with no RECs is 5.1 cents. So it's 4 cents cheaper. That's really something. The other proposal, the other bid we received was essentially the same. The price for the solar array, again, no RECs, was essentially the same as what we're paying for electricity now. Again, annual price escalator. In a cost comparison, we presume that in our numbers, we presume that the market rate for electricity would go up average 3% a year. Most others use 4%. We were a little more conservative, just to be sure. So yeah, the take home is that solar is already viable just as a cost-effective supply alternative.
Well, I know we're blending agenda items here, but my hope would be that the city decides that it wants to own the renewable aspects of that investment. But either way, we'll have a facility that can be a demonstration project, possibly, getting it into hosting the business association or others, and just letting them know, hey, here's something you can see. Please don't kick it too hard, but you can kick it, and these are the economics. It was a net savings. So we get some value even on this goal and strategy from our plan, something that can be showcased. My recommendation, too, would be to keep it as continuous. That this is something that we have. I'm proud of the successes we've made, but we should keep it open, and we should stay in the hunt for trying to encourage the commercial sector.
Do we need a motion for that, or is just direction?
No,
Okay.
it's fine. You know, on the pie graph, continuous is one color green and complete is a different color green, so it all looks green to me, so that's
Mhm.
fine. I'm happy
Okay.
when I see green.
Yeah.
Anything else on that agenda item?
Yeah. So the Climate Action Plan Goal 3 Action 5 is proposing strategies to increase renewable energy purchasing in the commercial sector. Since I have not familiarized myself with every aspect of the Climate Action Plan, are there any action items related to promoting or increasing energy efficiency in the commercial sector? And would that be part of this? Could that be part of the Climate Action Plan?
There's no specific items in the Climate Action Plan regarding energy efficiency in the commercial sector that I can recall. We have been running the Urbana-Champaign Energy Star Challenge, which engages building owners and managers to benchmark, track, and reduce their energy use on US EPA's free Energy Star Portfolio Manager. We've had a lot of participation in that compared to other cities that have run essentially the same program. In thinking in per capita basis, our program's been very successful. Our biggest participant has been the university in terms of the number of buildings from any particular property owner. Our participation in that program has been flat the last 2 years, so we'll have to reconsider whether we need to make changes, do something different, or retire the program. But that's how we've been addressing commercial sector energy efficiency. There are, I don't know, maybe a dozen of the largest cities in the country that have passed mandatory benchmarking ordinances, whereby what we've been doing voluntarily is required of all buildings over, I can't remember the number that everybody uses, but some square foot threshold. I looked at just casually how many buildings that would be that are private sector in Urbana, and it doesn't seem that we would get, it seems that if we made it mandatory, we would get less participation than we're gaining in the voluntary program, because we don't have that many of those larger buildings. That's a casual look at an aerial and guessing how many square feet buildings are. It doesn't mean that we couldn't use a different threshold, but just to say we have looked at that, and we may be doing just as good with a voluntary program as others are doing. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, you answered my question. Thank you. I concur with Morgan and Steve on continuing this as a continuing item and not a completed one.
Okay. And the third item under continuing business?
Yeah, we've had youth engagement left as an agenda item for a few meetings. I've continued to reach out to some of the folks who have been at our meetings past, some of the youth, and encourage them to report to us what they're working on, bring to us questions, and attend meetings and participate. So I don't think we have any participants from those folks today. We can keep that on and keep it open if you like. Certainly not any particular harm.
I'm still impressed now from what they presented last month, and I look forward to seeing them next meeting. It was really great.
I'm just curious, does the commission have, can the public request to receive agendas and meeting notices or meeting notifications, like a reminder?
In the past, I had done email marketing
Mm-hmm.
for commission meetings,
Mm-hmm.
and that seemed to have no effect at all on attendance.
Sure.
So I discontinued that practice. Maybe a good idea would be every January with our new meeting schedule, just do one email marketing, sending out the schedule, inviting people to participate.
Yep. I think doing that, or having the ability to, on our website, on the city's site, people wanted to request meeting notifications or to be added to a list. If that was workable for staff to manage something like that, that might help some of our participants who intend to attend regularly be able to do that. It might be a useful nudge.
We have a news, I don't know if it's a newsletter sign up, information sign up
Mhm.
by email
Mhm.
on the sustainability page. So anyone who wants to get whatever we may be working on, those sort of notifications, they can sign up on our webpage with an email.
Great.
I'm just curious if that particular action would have to be done by Scott or staff at the city, or if the commission itself could send out a reminder email from the commission on a monthly basis. I don't know what the protocol would be for that, but if there was something, I would be willing to help with that task with communications.
Yeah, anyone can, you're free to promote, announce the meeting as you like. We can talk about that more.
So could you, who would you send it to? Would it just be, you would try and push it on social media, Stacy, or are you thinking like listserv?
Sorry, I was thinking that if there was a list of individuals that were signing up to receive reminders about the meeting and get the agenda and the agenda packet, I was just wondering if that had to fall on staff to send out that communication, or if we could do that from the commission to not burden staff with additional tasks.
We may not want to disclose those emails as people are signing up for, one city function. We can talk about that some more.
It seems to me that the biggest burden of that is just collecting the emails and having it, because they're already sending us the agenda packet and it's getting posted online, so a second email that is the list. Otherwise, it's got to get it to you to send out. So I don't know how that saves the staff time is all I was thinking. But the additional promotion, because when you send the agenda to the commission members, that packet, we could forward it to everybody we could think of and encourage that participation.
Everything with minutes, but that's not secret either. I think it's fine to forward the meeting announcement to anyone you like. Staff can do the email marketing on this. It's not, it's 10 minutes or whatever. It just didn't produce any noticeable results. Maybe people were
No.
watching on TV.
It may
and
not,
so
but
we
if it's
fell out
minimal
of the
burden, I think it
practice.
might be a good practice to add it if you think it's workable and
Yeah.
wouldn't be an undue burden on you. And I could imagine, a clipboard in the back of the room at meetings that says, would you like to sign up to receive notices of future commission meetings? We
Yeah.
could collect names from the public, and we could have it on the website, and we could just see what we got. But it may be a useful hook to remind people that the commission's here and has ongoing business, and that might help our youth engagement as well.
And I could remind Aiden because he's my next door neighbor. So.
Ah, excellent.
Can you remind me of the protocol for what happens with the record of meetings and any recordings from meetings?
So a video of every meeting, as well as the packet, is posted on the website, and it's there forever and ever. So it's usually by Monday the next week, maybe even Friday of the same week. The video is up on the website.
The approved minutes, I think, they have to be posted within 10 days.
The same channels can be used to announce that recordings are available if you missed it. Here it
Mhm.
is.
Yeah, good point.
Okay. Any further discussion? Let's move on to new business, which is to approve that 2017 meeting schedule. Scott, thanks for listing the dates here. I note that looks like it's uniformly the first Tuesday of the month with the exception of July 11th. Because doing the math, sounds like the first Tuesday is the 4th of July, Independence Day. So we meet the second Tuesday in July. There are a few deviations. Generally, we're in council chambers, but in January, September, and November of 2017, we would be in the city building upstairs executive conference room. Do I have a motion to approve this meeting schedule?
Well, I would move that we move or cancel the January 3rd meeting to either a week later or just wait for February. And then approve the remainder.
Okay.
But I guess it's more of a discussion than a motion since I said or.
That's fine. We can open that up for discussion.
You could also approve the agenda or the schedule as it is today, and then take a week for everyone to consider whether they think it'll be valuable, and then individually email Maria and let her know, or and copy me or whatever you like, and we can make a decision whether they keep or move or cancel the January meeting.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I had forgotten we had that conversation. So, I move that we approve the schedule as listed
Okay.
currently in the packet.
Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay. Any further discussion? Let's have a vote. All in favor of approving the schedule as laid out, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. The schedule is adopted. And Scott, there's another item on new business here, the energy bill.
The Illinois General Assembly passed an energy bill. It was over 400 pages long. It has lots of elements in it. There was a summary that I emailed out from the Illinois Environmental Council. Just a few things to note on the bill. One, it does provide subsidies to keep 2 nuclear power plants open. 2, it does not, subsidies for coal were stripped from the bill. Those did not get passed. 3, it provides for a fix to the state's renewable portfolio standard, which will provide lots of funding for new renewable energy assets in the state. There are also lots of specific carve-outs for specific types of solar programs, low-income community solar, other types of low-income solar carve-outs, a carve-out for public sector solar. Reading those sections myself, it's not entirely clear how those will shape up. I presume that the staff at the Illinois Power Authority will spend a lot of time turning those those guidance into actual programs. I presume that some or all of those programs will be the procurement of renewable energy credits, similar to the supplemental procurement of renewable energy credits that happened earlier this year, with which our solar UC program took advantage of. It does seem, we'll have to watch the Illinois Commerce Commission rulings in the next, couple weeks, but it does seem that another already planned supplemental solar renewable energy credit procurement will move forward spring next year by the Illinois Power Authority. It's increasingly certain. There was a concern that the energy bill might replace, cancel, or stall that upcoming procurement. It's already been working its way through the various boards and commissions at the state to get approved. So it's going to the Illinois Commerce Commission next. Any questions on the energy bill?
Just the only summary I was able to get was the one you sent out. The others were all from before it was approved. Does nuclear power count towards the renewable portfolio standard now?
The way that subsidies were structured for the 2 nuclear power plants was in the form of a low carbon standard. All ratepayers, ComEd and Ameren ratepayers are certainly paying for that.
But
There are estimates of min and max of what ratepayers would actually pay. For reasons I don't know, Ameren ratepayers pay less than ComEd ratepayers for that low carbon standard subsidy. That would be separate from the renewable portfolio standard.
I have one other question. Again, before the bill was passed, there was some discussion about how it might impact the regulation, deregulation for our state. Was that in there at all?
No, our split energy
And-
system is the same. So
And the municipal aggregation programs were
yeah.
in discussion, but they.
I don't think I haven't heard any I haven't read all 400 pages.
Right.
I haven't heard any conversation about that being affected.
Okay. Good.
Interested to hear you saying that the Illinois Commerce Commission could act on a supplemental solar renewable energy program as soon as this spring. So that's analogous to the conditions that existed for our UC initiative, our UC solar initiative locally. What was the lead time like in that program? Is that something that we actually might capitalize on here? Was there a sense
I think we would work to take advantage of that. Some of the questions that we have before us in determining whether we want to go forward with a solar UC 2.0, do we want to wait until, in terms of bidding and starting the program, and by starting the program I mean solar power hours, do we want to wait until the supplemental procurement is scheduled and we really know what's going to happen? Do we want to wait until the bidding in the supplemental procurement is over so that bidders in our program would be bidding a specific value that they can provide based on what the value of the RECs that they secured? One thing working against waiting is the notion that we generated a bunch of hot leads in our first program and maybe they're cooling off. It's really hard to know, what is more valuable. If we bid before, if we go to request for quote before bidders know the value of the SRECs they're going to have on hand, we'd have to think about how to structure that. So we may structure it as, whatever price SREX you get, you have to disclose the price and tell us in the bid now what % of that value you're going to pass through. Or maybe stipulate that you have to pass through all of it or something, so that they couldn't bid one way and then be able to keep a lot of the value of the SREX in their processing costs. So I haven't quite figured out what the best, happy to take your recommendations, the best way to proceed on that.
Can you characterize the hot leads a little bit more? We were talking about how much of the uptake was in the commercial sector, and my perspective is that if it happens in the next 2 years, it's still kind of part of this whole
Still on the
discussion
back
and
burner.
movement, right? The people I've talked to just anecdotally aren't saying, well, why do I have to wait 2 weeks? They're saying, how long do I have to be able to follow up on that? Sort of a different attitude of.
So we had 81 contracts signed. We had about, I think the number was 160 site assessments. So double that. So there's 81 folks out there who, it didn't work out for them for some reason. It's hard to know if there was some barrier they couldn't overcome, the cash up front, financing, viability of their site, or whether what happened with those other 80 folks is they weren't really on the fence before, and the solar power hour and the site assessment put them on the fence, and they just need to be contacted again to make a decision and move forward with a contract. So it's hard to speculate on how whether you're losing people by waiting. By bidding before installers have SREX on hand, I think it makes the bid a little bit more complicated. If we knew that, or could structure the bid as such that most or all of the value of the SREX was passed through, that might make it simpler. And if bidders need to make money somewhere, then they'll simply they'll simply put their cost recovery and profits on the per kilowatt fee. And maybe we could just stipulate you have to secure SREX, and you have to disclose what you paid for them, and you have to pass through all of the value. Some of the value will still be taken in transaction costs from the SREC aggregators. There's only like 8 companies that buy up all of the SRECs, and then they sell them to other installers. So if there was a way that staff would feel comfortable that we're taking care of our participants' best interests in the bid process, we could get this going before the spring procurement. So imagine that the spring procurement is, March 31st, and then we bid. So that's another month, April, and then we mobilize our solar power hours, April 15th, May. Maybe it's getting, spring is probably a great time to sell solar panels. The sun's coming out, it's getting warm. Maybe we're getting a little too late. So if there's a way that we could move the schedule back a little bit and be ready for solar power hours right when the weather is getting nice, I want to find that way.
What's the ramifications or positive things of having the community solar option?
Community solar like they're doing in Minnesota?
Well, because that's part of the bill, is there's a community solar program now.
So that's uncertain what that will mean. I know that ComEd in negotiations, when there used to be 3 different energy bills, had offered to run several community solar projects, I think. So it's uncertain whether this is really all about ComEd, that portion of the bill. I think there is some mays rather than some shalls in some of those portions of the bill. What is necessary for any utility to either run directly a community solar project or allow a third-party developer to run a community solar project is meter aggregation. Folks are not going to buy a solar panel or buy the production from a solar panel on the other side of town unless it's net metered on their bill every month. That's my presumption. It won't feel real otherwise. So far, the current law, it says investor-owned utilities may consider, no, I take that back, investor-owned utilities shall consider requests for meter aggregation. In the past, the utilities have considered meter aggregation once and said that they're not going to do it. There was a recent Joint Committee on Administrative Rules hearing where the committee ruled that it does not satisfy the law that utilities consider meter aggregation once and decide that they're not going to do it. They have to consider every single request for meter aggregation. Upon hearing about the results of that hearing, I did a web search for application for meter aggregation. I did not find an application. So I think this is not all played out yet. I don't know exactly how those elements of the bill are going to be implemented. I will tell you that everyone I talk to that's related to the energy or solar industry, I tell them all, I have a closed landfill. It would be great for solar. A nearby off-taker, community solar. There's also, the city has, in terms of city facilities, we have, I think, 1.5 million kilowatt hours of demand each year. If we could meter aggregate with demand at our buildings, supply at the landfill, we could provide our own power for city facilities as well. So I'm going to keep asking the question as to how that is going to be implemented.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, with a 400-page bill, there's got to be more we can talk about. Is there any other discussion on the energy bill? Okay. Let's move on to announcements. Do we have any announcements? Okay. Hearing none, I will take a motion to adjourn this meeting.
I move.
Thank you, Beth. Second?
I'll second that.
Okay. Any discussion? Hearing none. If you vote to adjourn, please do so by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the meeting's adjourned. Thanks, everybody.